We begin the day with an arrest on suspicion of sabotage that could possibly connect Ukraine, Russia, Germany, Poland. The list is long, but it may be a moot point depending on which direction the winds of war blow. 3 years ago, shortly after Russia began its invasion of Ukraine, an explosion damaged the Nord Stream pipelines on the bed of the Baltic Sea connecting Russia and Germany. Yesterday, the first arrest, a Ukrainian man who is set to face trial here in Germany. Did he receive his orders from Kyiv? And would that make the pipelines a legitimate wartime target? Would those questions matter as much if Russia and Ukraine agreed to peace? We have this report.
What was once hailed as the future of European energy security all ended in a burst of bubbles. A German pipe dream of buying cheap natural gas from Moscow and turning Russia ever closer to Western democratic values through economic cooperation. Nord Stream started as a bromance project between Russian President Vladimir Putin and former German Chancellor Gerhard Schröder in the mid-2000s. Schröder's successor Angela Merkel held onto the project, opening the pipeline with then-President Dmitry Medvedev in 2011. It went on to become Europe's largest single source of Russian gas imports, covering 2/3 of Germany's total demand for gas. In 2015, a second set of pipelines was announced amid much controversy. Nord Stream 2 was seen as a geopolitical project and opposed by many Eastern European countries, including Ukraine as well as the United States. The second set of pipelines would have doubled the capacity of Nord Stream 1, cementing Russia's grip on Europe's energy market. Despite Nord Stream 2's completion, it never went into operation. Shortly after Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine, Moscow cut the supply of gas in what was seen as a tit-for-tat reaction to European sanctions, plunging Germany and other European countries into an energy crisis. Just a few months later, 3 of the 4 pipelines were blown up. The investigation is still underway.
And for more, I want to bring in Florian Flade. He's an investigative journalist with the German public broadcaster WDR. He has reported on the Nord Stream pipeline blast extensively. Florian, it's good to have you with us. I want to start, if we can, with the suspect who was arrested earlier today in Italy. Now, the arrest warrant for this gentleman was issued by Germany, correct? And when did that come?
This arrest warrant was issued only a few days ago, only a few days before he traveled to Italy with his wife and children. And we have heard from sources within this investigation that the German investigators knew that he would be traveling soon and that they alerted the Italian authorities of his arrival.
So this tells us then that he had been on the radar of investigators for quite some time.
Yeah, that's true. We have heard that this person and also other people that are now regarded as suspects have been on the radar of German investigators, that they have identified several people that they suspect were involved in the attacks on the Nord Stream pipelines. Mm-hmm. And this suspect is accused by the prosecutor's office now as being a coordinator of the attacks. He apparently was not one of the divers who carried out the attack, but is suspected of having been present on this sail yacht, the Andromeda sail yacht, that was allegedly used in this attack.
Okay. And what do we know about the suspect? I mean, he's Ukrainian. He was at a seaside resort in eastern Italy today with his family. Is that correct?
Yes, he was arrested on Wednesday. He's a 49-year-old Ukrainian national. He apparently was on holidays or wanted to start his holidays in Italy, in a little town in the Rimini region of Italy. And he was arrested after he checked into a hotel and he was identified as being wanted by Germany and is now in Italian custody.
So the alleged sabotage happened in 2022. It's now 2025. How significant is this arrest for the investigation and for the attempt by Germany to serve justice?
I would say it's quite a significant breakthrough in this investigation that has now been going on for several years. German investigators have worked very hard on this case. It is a very special case. You know, the place of the crime that was committed is on the bottom of the Baltic Sea. And there was just a few information in the beginning about the possible perpetrators of this attack. And we know that the German investigation has identified several people that were involved in this attack. And last year, they tried to arrest one of the first suspects that they got hold of, or they wanted to catch. And he was living in Poland back then. And this suspect was able to flee Poland to Ukraine. There's also the accusation that he might have gotten some help from Polish authorities when he left Poland last year.
There were several investigations at one time following the explosion at the pipeline. Since then, Sweden and Denmark, they have shut down their investigations. Germany was the only one still conducting an investigation. Why was that the case?
The other countries that have started investigations in the beginning, Denmark and also Sweden, they both have they've come to the conclusion that there was no crime committed on the territory of Denmark or territory of Sweden itself, and that no Swedish or Danish victims of this, and that there were no Danish or Swedish victims in this case, and that this is mainly something that the German authorities would be interested in. So what they did was they provided their evidence, everything that they investigated, up to the point when they closed the investigation. They gave all this evidence to the German investigators, and this investigation is now being carried out by Germany.
Before we run out of time, let me just ask you, I mean, is it possible that these charges could be dropped? Is it possible that this could be part of a final peace deal between Ukraine and Russia, that the Ukrainians say these charges have to be dropped?
I don't really think that will be the case, and I don't think these charges will be dropped from the German prosecutor side. I guess they want to put this man on trial, and I guess the Ukrainian government will stick to what they have said for the past 3 years, that they have not been involved in this attack, that this is not a this was not a state-run operation. This was not done officially by the Ukrainian military or intelligence. This is what Volodymyr Zelensky said. This is what members of the Ukrainian security services said. So I think they will stick to this. And I don't think they want to be part of any peace negotiations.
Okay. Investigative journalist Florian Flade. Florian, we appreciate you taking the time to talk with us. We understand you're in the middle of vacation, so thank you.
Thank you so much.
Well, for more now, I'm joined by Steffen Dobbert. He's a journalist and author of the book Nord Stream, How Germany Pays for Russia's War. It's good to have you with us this evening. What do you make of this arrest? Do we get any closer to understanding who was behind this act of sabotage?
Hi, thanks for having me. Unfortunately, we are not getting any much closer, because we knew already that one theory is that people with the Andromeda are responsible for the explosions. But the suspect, who will be soon in Germany, maybe, will be maybe not talking. And the main thing is we still have no evidence that this theory is right. It's still possible that others did it. We don't have the evidence, and unfortunately, I have to tell you, we don't get much closer.
Well, this act of sabotage has always been tied to Russia's invasion of Ukraine in one form or another. So let me ask you, if the war ends before this man goes to trial, is it possible that the charges against him could be dropped, the investigation could be silently put to rest?
You know, in a world of Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump, this would be possible. But hopefully it will not happen, and we will separate these things. In your show, you former said Nord Stream is a symbol of the war. I would even say it was the biggest trap, the Russian trap of the war. It had 3 aims. One aim was making Germany dependent on Russian gas. Second aim was to split the European Union. And the third aim was to recolonize Ukraine. So I think we don't have to put now, when we have just a small more piece of information into this, mix it with the whole picture. I know even the sources of our book told us that people of the Trump administration and from Russia are trying to do this, to mix it up in a big peace deal.
Right.
But I hope the German authorities will not follow, and the German chancellor also will not follow this path.
Well, Steffen, how would the German justice system deal with this scenario then if the suspect, if he were to talk, if he were to say he got his orders from Kyiv and argue that the pipeline was a legitimate target because it happened during war, it was after the invasion began, how would the German justice system then deal with that?
They should and will hopefully deal with it as if it is a normal single justice case. And besides to this, you have to see that since 2014, when the war started, more than 104 billion of euros were spent by German companies to finance Russia's war. So on a moral level, it's totally understandable if Ukrainians did it, that they did it. But, this is nothing what the German authorities have to mix in this. And again, I have to disappoint you. We don't have any real facts who show evidence that the Ukrainian state was involved in this. We did for 3 years the investigation of our book. We asked the Ukrainian president and his advisor and the former president, and they stopped talking about this. So my guess is we will not see much more light in this dark tunnel soon.
Let me ask you this. Maybe there's some light at the end of another tunnel. Many have argued that an attack, an act of sabotage at this level would not have been possible without the backing of a national government or some type of intelligence service. Your thought on that?
I can tell you what two of our sources told us. One source, experienced diver, said you could have done this without the help of any intelligence service. And if you know how Ukrainians were capable to do other operations during this war, this is possible. Second, we have sources who said there were services from outside of Ukraine involved. But we don't have evidence for this. We don't have two sources for this. That's why I don't want to speculate about this.
Yeah, so many unanswered questions. Journalist Steffen Dobbert. Steffen, we appreciate you taking the time to talk with us tonight. Thank you. Well, for more on this, I want to bring in our political correspondent, Simon Young. Simon, what do we know about this suspect?
A 49-year-old Ukrainian man identified as Serhiy K. On vacation, as you mentioned, with his family in Italy near the city of Rimini. Now, Italian police moved in when this man flashed up the document that he used to check into his accommodation, flashed up saying that he was wanted on a European arrest warrant issued by Germany, and he's now due to be extradited to Germany. Could take a few weeks because there's an Italian judicial process to go through. Now, authorities say that he is one of the coordinators of a group of 6 people who they allege carried out the attack on the Nord Stream pipelines. He was among that group that rented a yacht using false documents and sailed from the German port of Rostock to carry out the attack, it's claimed, by diving down and attaching explosives to the pipelines.
Simon, this arrest and the potential trial of the Ukrainian suspect, will it have any impact on the German government's support, political support for Kyiv as it continues to try to push back Russian invaders?
Well, the German authorities say not. They say this is about law and order. They say that all crimes committed under German jurisdiction have to be fully investigated and the rule of law must be upheld. And the German Justice Minister, who said all of that today, went on to say it doesn't change anything about Germany's stance on Russia's war in Ukraine. Germany continues to stand with Ukraine. But I would say others might see it differently. They might see it as not just a police matter, but part of the whole question of what's at stake in Ukraine. Nord Stream is a symbol of Russia's former leverage over Europe's energy supply. If Ukrainians were involved, what was the role, if any, of the Ukrainian state? That's a big question people are continuing to ask. And I think, Nord Stream could well be part of any ultimate peace deal to bring the war in Ukraine to an end. Certainly, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said earlier this year that Nord Stream definitely would be on the table.
Yeah, that's a very interesting point, Simon. Ukraine could argue that the pipeline was a legitimate military target. The explosions happened after the full-scale invasion had begun. And now they have a Ukrainian suspect who's going to come to Germany to face justice. I'm wondering how much of a PR delicate balancing act is this going to be for Germany?
Well, I think a major question is, was the Ukrainian state involved? I think they may say this was a group of Ukrainian patriots, former service personnel, many of them, who carried out this attack on their own behalf. Whether that's plausible, well, time will tell.
DW Simon Young with the latest tonight here in Berlin. Simon, as always, thank you.